Well, good evening, everyone. We welcome you to the Mountaineer Locker Room then and now. Greg Christ, along with Frank Fear, finally getting on the air here for our Wednesday night show. Frank, great to see you.
Good to see you always.
Yep, got lots of stuff as usual. Never fails each week. It's just more and more news, and as much money as we're making doing this, we ought to go to 2 or 3 nights a week, and I mean, we'd be rich then. Well, no, wait a minute. No, we'd still be at zero, wouldn't we? But plenty of news to talk about, plenty of stuff going on in the Mountaineer world. Look forward to talking to everyone about all that tonight. We'll be joined, of course, by Mickey Plumley here in just a few minutes, and we got a great guest again, Frank. We're always talking. You and I talk a lot during the week, and always talk about our guests, and it's always fascinating to when you dive into these folks and look at their backgrounds and read about them, maybe somebody you didn't know before, and you see all the fascinating things that you didn't know. And I'm just like, man, alive, how does this all remain, so obscure that you Mountaineer fans don't know all these things? And this is another fascinating story tonight that we have. It's going to be a lot of fun. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, in fact, when you think about it, this is obviously Thanksgiving Eve. It's for families. And so we have a family show here because, and I didn't know this until Tom and I started talking, and he shared with me, but what a family of athletes. His wife was on the first golf team at WVU and still holds a record after all these years. She played from 74, 78. Tom, of course, played football there. His son was an offensive lineman at Duke, and daughter played college basketball at Elon down in North Carolina. And so it's just quite an amazing story. All college athletes. You don't see that very often.
No, you don't. And the wife you mentioned, I think, was tennis. Unless this picture I'm looking at, that's the strangest golf club I've ever seen anybody hold with. I believe I could hit a golf ball with that thing, but it looks like a tennis racket to me. So I think she was a tennis player. Yeah. So, yeah.
Did I say golf?
I think you said golf, yeah.
Oh, forget. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Oh, I tell you, it's some of that good Charleston hooch, Mick, and I gotta get my sports right. Forget the golf; it's tennis.
Yeah, my wife locks the cabinet up on me on Wednesday. She don't allow me to do that anymore. She said I make a fool out of myself. So, yeah. I try to straighten up a little bit. But anyway, honest mistake. But yeah, fascinating story. And I mean, you just don't hear these stories. And before you'd introduced me to this, and I was reading some of the background, I was just blown away by it. I'm like, my gosh, how come we haven't heard of this person? And, of course, those of us that watch the Mountaineers through the years remember these names of players, but we don't know all this about their families and their careers afterwards and all that. And always fun stuff. And we'll bring Mickey in here for just a minute. Mickey, it's good to see you as always.
Hey, happy Thanksgiving, guys. And to our listening audience out there, we got at least 4 plump turkeys here talking football and other sports tonight. I'm not including Tom in that, but on the broadcasting panel, at least I got at least 4 here counting Darren. So happy Thanksgiving to everyone out there.
All right. Thank you, Mickey. Appreciate that. And we'll get here in just a little bit. We'll talk a little bit about the game that's coming up this weekend and give our predictions. It's a big prediction week for us. This is going to come down to the wire. We got a tie at the top and somebody one game behind. So this thing could end up in a 3-way tie. But I've been doing my studying this week, Mickey. I've been researching and studying, and I'm not going to listen to you. I'm going to take what I read and what I've studied, and that's how I'm going to make my prediction. And I'm not going to go $1 under you, so 1 point under you. I am going to pick the score that's going to be right. So we'll see how it all winds up. And Frank, if you want to, I always let you do this because you do it so eloquently. I'll let you introduce our our guest tonight here in just a little bit. After we finish up, we'll talk about next week's game. We'll also talk a little bit about the basketball teams and what's going on there. Also, the soccer, got a lot of stuff going on there, and we've got transfer portal stuff getting ready to crank up, and hearing all kinds of rumors and things going on, and I tell you what, it never ends, does it? It just seems like this with this NIL and this transfer portal, these sports, football, basketball, and baseball, all of them are just year-round cycles. It never seems to stop.
Yeah, and next week is National Signing Day for recruits, the 4th and 5th, the early signing day, and then the other signing days in February. And we'll talk about that. West Virginia is really doing very, very well on the recruitment side. Portal hasn't opened yet, but it'll open very quickly, very soon.
Yeah, and speaking of signing day, I had heard, like I said, I'm a talk show junkie and listen to all these shows all week long. Some interesting things about some of the bigger universities like Florida, for example, not diving in and grabbing high school players and building programs and that sort of thing. I want to talk a little bit about that at the end as well. But I'm going to stop yammering here and let you go ahead and introduce our guest, and we'll get started with him. Can't wait.
Great. Tom Brandner, we're just so pleased you're with us. And Darren's going to bring you on, and we'll have a little chat and talk about you and your career and what you've been doing since, and also your terrific family. I mean, anybody who's on Facebook, I encourage you to go to Tom's Facebook page and see the display of love and commitment. I think that's your real family. They're not actors and actresses, are they? Because I'll tell you, it's heartwarming, to say the least. So, Tom, good to see you, and thanks for being here.
Thanks, Frank. Thanks for having me, and thanks for it's great to be on the show. I've seen some of my previous teammates on a couple of the webcasts, and I'm just honored that you asked me to come on. So thanks a lot, Frank and Mickey.
Hey.
And thank you.
Yeah. In fact, we were talking the other day. I spoke with a few of your former compatriots there, and they're watching tonight, and that's always exciting. And that's why we do this. I'm not sure we don't think there's any other show like this, that the reason we have the subtitle of Then and Now, that we look back and ask the question, how can we hail those that we stand on the shoulders of? And then, of course, talk about what's going on today. Because both of those, that's the foundation of Mountaineer Nation, along with the fans. And so we're excited. And so talk a bit about yourself, your background, and then talk about your family. But you and I have talked a lot about tonight, so you take it in the direction you want to take it.
I appreciate it, Frank. And first of all, I want to give a great shout out to Kevin Johnson, who put together that wonderful reunion we had a few weeks ago, the 50-year Peach Bowl reunion. That was just fantastic. Getting back to see some of the the old players and swapping stories and just laughing it up. We just had a great time. And again, big shout out to Kevin and Bob Petrolo, who was our manager, that put a lot of effort into putting that whole thing together. And it was just such an honor to be back. I hadn't been back since the 20-year reunion back in it was in 95. So it was like 30 years ago. I was back for my only game that I was back since I graduated. But basically, Frank, I'm a product of Pittsburgh, and it was back in the time of Bobby Bowden and Chuck Clausing and Frank Signetti that they started mining a lot of players out of Western Pennsylvania, and had a great team of a lot of people there: Dave Van Hallinger, Andy Peters, Gary Lombard. I just go on and on, name Ray Marshall and on from the boys from the Pittsburgh area. But that really was a nice core that we had there on that 75 team when we played and again beat the old Pitt Panthers in the backyard brawl, which believe me, it was a great day. And in fact, funny story is that day was actually the first date that I had with my wife. Was on the evening of November 8th, 1975 was our first date. And 50 years later, here we are. So, yeah, and again, just, going back, I was recruited with Andy Peters. Andy and I played at the same high school. And honestly, you mentioned national sign or early signing date. I was actually the first person to sign a letter of intent with Virginia Tech in December 1, 1971. So I was back then, you could sign letters of intent where the school kind of guaranteed to you, but you're not necessarily signed to them until you sign the national letter of intent. So that happened again in February when I signed the national letter of intent with West Virginia. But back then, the coach that was recruiting me for Virginia Tech left to go to Maryland to coach with Jerry Claiborne, who was a coach at Virginia Tech. And then he started trying to get me to come down to Maryland. And I said, well, I think I want to stay closer to home. So thank goodness Frank Signetti started calling and talking to both Andy and I, and took a nice recruiting visit together after one of Andy's basketball games, and spent a great weekend in Morgantown, and signed with the Mountaineers in February of that year. So that's kind of how the recruiting effort went. But came to West Virginia because I wanted to be close to home, and my parents came to every game, which was great. And not only that, I had an opportunity for a great education, and I was probably one of the only starters that was in the School of Engineering. There was a few engineers on the team, Bill McKenzie being one of them, and Chuck Brooks, the punter. He was an electrical engineer. But as far as I know, I think we were the only engineering students on the football team during that time frame. But it was a great education. It took me a little longer than 4 years to graduate because of all the labs and the hard curriculum, but took an extra semester to graduate, but finally graduated in December of 75 with my degree in industrial engineering, and got a great job working right there in Clarksburg, West Virginia at the Union Carbide plant as a quality control engineer. And so basically that kind of led me into my career, where I had two careers in my life. I spent half my career in the steel industry or steel related industry, and then the second half of my career I was in the medical business. So that's kind of how my progression went along. And through those many years working for Union Carbide, I was transferred a lot, so I got to see a lot of the country. Started in good old Clarksburg, West Virginia. I got transferred to Cleveland, Ohio, was then transferred to New Jersey, Texas, Tennessee, and where eventually I ended up changing careers and went to work for one of my customers in South Carolina. That's what took me to the Carolinas, and that's where we basically raised our family. And so it was a great opportunity to stay in one place, and eventually there I got into the medical device business, and I'm actually still doing some part-time work selling for a medical device company.
Fantastic. You and I, well, actually, you shared with me, we'll stay on the West Virginia football plane for a while, about the goalpost at that Pitt game in 1975. And you sent us a photo that, let's give Darren a second or two to put it up. There it is. And let's bring Greg and then Mickey into this so that I get out of here. And you can start by telling your story, because it's the story that is part of the game that then continued. But my understanding now is it's a mystery.
It's a mystery. Absolutely.
Now it's a mystery. So why don't you set the stage? I set the stage. Why don't you tell the story, and then these guys can ask you questions.
Of course, the top picture is the great kick that Bill McKenzie made with, 3 seconds left on the clock. And, prior to that was the, we got the ball back on the 48-yard line after a punt, and the tied score 14-14. We had basically 14 seconds to get the ball into field goal range. One play to Randy Swinson with a nice little play down the left sideline. got us into field goal position. And somewhere in the bottom of that pile, I'm laying there in the bottom of that pile up there while Bill kicks the field goal, and we made history. So, one of the greatest wins in West Virginia history. Of course, you can see in the picture in the middle, the goalpost coming down there on the bowl end. And my senior year, Coach Bowden let the seniors live off campus. So I actually lived over on Charles Avenue, which was right down the street from Mario's Fish Bowl. Not that we spent a lot of time there or not, but
yeah, right.
We lived right there in the house with three of my teammates, Greg Anderson, Dave Wilcher, Jim Miller, and the family across the street. Nice family across the street. They had a couple teenage boys, and the gentleman was a maintenance man at one of the factories there in Morgantown. He actually got a hold of that goalpost that you saw that came down, and he cut them up into these little 5-inch pieces, painted them, and he actually gave every one of us in the house across the street one of those goalpost samples. He sold a lot of those pieces on the market, in Morgantown, to raise money so he could take the kids to the Peach Bowl in Atlanta. So I kept that for many, many years, had it in my office, and then for the there you can see them on the bottom. So my roommates and I each got one of the goalposts. That's really just one goalpost there. That's the split screen that you see two pieces. But I actually gave that to Gary Lombard when you had the 40th reunion 10 years ago, and they said they were going to put that goalpost into the Letterman's Club. I guess they built some sort of a building on campus where they kind of archived a lot of the paraphernalia from back in the day. So that was in that Letterman's Club. And then I asked Gary about that a couple of weeks ago when we were together, and he said, well, when they remodeled the Letterman's Club and they moved it somewhere off campus on another part of campus, that goalpost disappeared. So it's floating around somewhere in Morgantown, and I would love for it to be back in a nice place and kind of like the Museum of West Virginia football for a reminder from one of the greatest wins of West Virginia history. So Mickey and Greg, if you know of anybody that knows the whereabouts of that goalpost, it'd be great to get it back into the archives.
I got a friend up there. I bet Lynn Murray probably has it. That's going to be my guess, Frank. I don't know if you remember Lynn from Castellino's when we went there. That was Lynn. Sure. Lynn probably has it. So, Tom, I'm not going to put you on the spot on this one, but I'm just going to throw this out there. Uh-huh. I'm just curious, and again, you don't need to answer this, but bound to have been a time when somebody said, "Tom, tell us about that day in November," and you say, "Bill McKenzie, I had a first date with my wife." I guarantee you that's happened to you before. That Bill McKenzie came out first.
Yeah, exactly.
I always I love getting folks on here that played in that Peach Bowl. I know, and I've told this story a couple of times on here. My father passed away from ALS in 1977. And he was a huge sports fan and a huge Mountaineer fan. And we happened to have a local guy that played for WVU at the time. And his father and some of their friends arranged for tickets to take him to the Peach Bowl. And so they were able to get him down there in a wheelchair and that sort of thing. But they got him down, and he got the opportunity to watch West Virginia play in that Peach Bowl. And it was a thrill for him. And I always think fondly of that game because I know he was there. But anyway, Tom Proudmore was the local guy from our hometown, and his father was friends with my father, and that's how they got hooked up to go. And I'm sure you remember Tom Proudmore.
Absolutely. Yep.
I always like to hear. Of course, we grew up watching him, but I like to hear people talk a little bit about Tom and what he meant to WVU.
And of course, he was a tremendous defensive back, and actually made a great interception in that Peach Bowl game. And I don't know if you remember the book that John Antioch wrote. in the book, it talks about that Peach Bowl, and I was actually I got food poisoning the night before the game, and so I was kind of limited in my play during that game, and so Wayne Gatewood had to fill in for me. And for at least 60-70% of the game, I was on the sideline, rather ill. But I did start the game, and I did finish the game when Scott McDonald caught the pass that ran down the field and scored. But after that game, I actually flew back to New Jersey with my now current wife, and thought my career was over. I thought that was my last game. I didn't get a chance to really play a full game, but I was in New Jersey with my future wife, and we took a skiing trip up to Hunter Mountain. And when we came back that night, my future mother-in-law said, "Hey, there was a coach from West Virginia that called here. I'm looking for you, Tom." I said, "Coach, for me?" He said, "Yeah, Chuck Clausing called and said that Coach Bowden is down at this All-Star game in Tampa, and he wants you to come down and play guard." And I said, "Me?" So he said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, what happened?" He said, "Well, the guard that was supposed to play in that game was from Michigan. He got hurt in the Orange Bowl, and Coach Bowden is down there coaching with the Michigan State coach at that time." And he said, "Hey, call Tom Brandner, see if he'd come down and play guard for this All-Star game." So I got the opportunity to go down and play one more game. And I remember Coach Bowden and his wife picking me up at the airport in Tampa and taking me back to the hotel. And he said, "Tom, are you hungry?" I said, "Yeah, I've been traveling all day." Because, well, let's stop. We stopped at a Denny's for a sandwich, and we're sitting in the Denny's having a sandwich. And he said, "Tom, when we get back to Morgantown, I want to get all the seniors and the team together, because I want to tell everybody that I'm leaving for Florida State." So this is like a week and a half before he made the announcement back in Morgantown. And at that All-Star game, Artie Owens was the running back. Al Gilhusky was playing center, and I got to play right next to Al as a guard. And so we were sitting around, and Coach Bowden actually came up to us back then and said, "Listen, guys, we get back, we're going to have this meeting, and I'm going to take the Florida State job." And back in that day, there was no Twitter and no internet and all that stuff. But could you imagine that happening today, keeping that secret for like 8 or 9 days like that? So here Bobby Bowden is down in Tampa, Florida, coaching in this All-Star game. And we get back to Morgantown. Sure enough, he has the team in on that Monday, and he tells the team, and that afternoon he was off to Florida State. So at least I had the opportunity to play my last game truly for Bobby Bowden.
Wow, great story. Great story. Mickey, you want to jump in and get a few questions in?
Yeah, that is a great story, Tom. So you grew up around the Pittsburgh area. Is that where you played high school ball, in that area?
High school ball, Fox Chapel High School. Yes, sir.
They part of the used to be the Big 33 Western PA Athletic Conference. Was pretty competitive up there. I played with a guy from McKees Rocks by the name of Bob Zatelli. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you know Bob or not, or run across him. I think everybody in the Pittsburgh McKees Rocks area knows about Bob.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, he does a wonderful job up there with a nonprofit organization where he raises money. Has an Italian bocce ball tournament every year. Raises scholarship funds. So in your high school career, you were recruited by West Virginia and Virginia Tech, and then the Virginia Tech coach went to Maryland. Any other schools have an interest in you?
Took some nice trips. I visited Syracuse on a very eventful weekend. I got snowed in up in Syracuse. Could you figure? I showed up on a Friday afternoon. Not a flake of snow was on the ground. And by Saturday afternoon, there was 4 feet of snow. And
wow.
Meeting Coach Swartz, the old coach from West Virginia.
Schwarzenegger,
yeah. Sitting in his office, and he knew I was looking at West Virginia, and he was telling me his stories about how he played there, but yeah, old Archibald Stadium. Ooh, can never forget that old cold stadium, which we should have won my senior year when they took that touchdown away from Ron Lee. But we should have been definitely 9-2 that year instead of 8-3.
8-3.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting you'd mentioned that game. We, in 1969, our last game of the year was against Syracuse at Archibald Stadium. And at the time, we were 8-1, and we needed to win that game at Archibald Stadium to go 9-1 to get the Peach Bowl bid.
Mm-hmm.
So we both played in those Peach Bowls, and dadgummit, as Coach Bowden would say, if Jim Braxton didn't break one in the second half, we were down in the first half, and I think it was 10-0 actually, and we ended up winning that game 13-10. But I have fond memories, well, not that fond I have memories of playing in Archibald Stadium. As I recall, the locker rooms were underground, and you actually came up the stairs like a baseball dugout onto the field level. And those Syracuse players were just so doggone big back in the late 60s. I mean, you felt like the Christians going up against the Lions. Same experience for you?
Absolutely. Yeah. I remember the nail from my hook to hang up my clothes, and for sure in the locker room, but also not a blade of grass left at that time of year on the field. It was just nothing but a mud pit, and and cold, always cold. Why'd we always play Syracuse the last game of the year? So
yeah, you'd think that would be the one of the earlier ones in the warmer weather, huh?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So the other thing we're having similar here is that we both played in a Peach Bowl. Ours was at Old Grant Field. I don't know if they moved it by 75 or if it was still the old.
Yeah,
Old Grant Field.
No, the Grant Field is where actually Georgia Tech plays. The Peach Bowl that we played in was in the old baseball field, the old baseball stadium, Cobb County Baseball Stadium. Hank Aaron. Yeah, Fulton County
Stadium.
Yeah, that's where Tommy Pridemore and Jeff Merrow played all their games. All the Falcons played in that stadium. So.
Oh, that's right. I recall that.
They used stadium where they swapped it over to football, and kind of like Three Rivers in Pittsburgh and Cincinnati and stuff. Yeah, they multi-use stadiums back in those days, and thank goodness they've gone into more specialized stadiums these days. Yeah. I
was interested in your story about getting food poisoning the night before the game. We was underground Atlanta still there, still pretty popular?
Still was.
In 75? Okay.
Yeah. And
so we got
all the players stayed away from it. Believe me, they all stayed away from it. So.
Well, I was wondering about your comments about food poisoning there. That might be a cover story, or if it's a real thing. Because my college roommate was from Atlanta. He went to Decatur High School, and he got recruited by Jim Carlin when Carlin came to West Virginia. He knew Atlanta like the back of his hand. So either before or after room check, we did our share of exploring in downtown Atlanta. And of course, the reason we went down there was to make sure we were well hydrated for the game. If you catch my drift there.
Yeah. Of course, that game was played on New Year's Eve.
Right.
And unfortunately, I was so sick. I barely had dinner with my family. And
oh my gracious.
Right to the room, and then the next morning flew back to New Jersey with my future wife. So.
Hey, talking about your future wife, I see Jean's right there, known as Jean Dolly back in the day. Let's get her in the shot, and
the shot, yeah.
There she is, and so we're looking at history there.
Yep, that's
first.
Right. We are
now. I thought I made a mistake by golf, but I'm pretty sure I saw you with a 9-iron just a few minutes ago.
That was the stroke. That was the 9 iron. You see, yeah.
That's in case he said Bill McKenzie, Frank.
But it's so good. You still hold a record for the highest percentage of wins in a single. It's like 90%. And you played on the first team. You were captain, co-captain. I can't remember which. I think your senior year. But welcome to the show, and talk a bit about your incredible career and being part of the first team in a sport, tennis at West Virginia.
Thank you, Frank. I must tell you that those were probably 4 of the greatest years that I could have experienced. Title IX was just coming to the forefront at that point, and reflecting back on it, what I can say is those 4 years we absolutely played from the love of our heart. And that's really what it was all about. It was just so much fun. And just for the love of the game, that's what it was all about. I think, unfortunately, college sports is so different now. With both of our children, our son and our daughter playing college sports, D1, and it's so different. And so I feel so grateful to have had that experience, to play under Martha Thorne, who I learned passed away, I think, during the COVID years, perhaps 2021. But she had a great run as head coach. She's the one that brought the program to WVU. She was instrumental, along with a couple other of the female coaches.
Kitty Blakemore.
And
gymnastics coach.
There was a couple others, but they were just advocates for women's sports. And there you can see the picture. That was one of our teams there.
And they did it with no money. Think about the budgets back then.
Yeah.
And the women, they didn't get in. They had to fight for court time.
The first year, I think Leland Bird gave us $1,000, as well as the women's basketball team, and we were thrilled. I mean, we could have dinners on the road, and it was just one of the highlights of my life. I will always remember that with such.
And when you think about the intersection too, Tom showed me a great photo of you with Martha in 2012. And it just so happened that your daughter's basketball team, they were playing the Mountaineers on, I think it was New Year's Eve. Was it New Year's Eve?
It was New Year's Eve of 2012.
2012. And there's a great picture of you and her together and at halftime. That, you think about these things. How is it possible for all of that to come together? But it's just wonderful. And we're blessed when it happens.
It truly, she's just a wonderful woman, and Tom and I, we were just thrilled to be on campus. Our daughter playing in the Coliseum. Our son Gabriel was with us as well. He had not committed, he
was only a junior in high school at that time. So,
but just to share that experience, that was our home for 4 years. Yeah, it was beautiful. Thank you.
Well, Darren, if you could put up the first slide, because what we did is we put together, so you're all there together, a picture of all 4 of you. And if there's Gabriel. In fact, there he is guarding a pro quarterback, I think. Didn't Daniel go on to be a pro quarterback? I think that's Daniel Jones.
He's having a pretty good year at Indianapolis right now. But
that's right.
Gabriel,
that's right.
Left side for at least 2 of his 3 years he started. But as you can see, he's a little bit bigger than his father and mother and daughter. But he had a tremendous career at Duke and tremendous education. He is now an orthopedic surgeon, 3rd-year resident at the University of Pittsburgh, UPMC. Probably on call right now, and just having a great career as a surgeon. So,
unbelievable. We'll talk a bit about your daughter who played college basketball.
Yeah, Ariel played at Elon University, a small private university around Burlington, North Carolina. And so I think that it was just a huge learning experience for her. I mean, she was one of the stars of her small independent high school, private school teams in South Carolina. She was a tremendous athlete in track and field and basketball, and so she was not a starter, and she rode the bench. So I think it was a hugely humbling experience for her. But like we know, that's what life is all about. And so there were lessons to be learned, and but all in all, it got her a fabulous education at just a wonderful university. So I think she looks back on those years and knows how blessed she was to have had that opportunity.
Yeah. Mm. And I know you're going to probably get into talking a little bit about NIL and all that stuff that's coming on now with the transfer portal. And back when Gabriel was, he graduated from high school in 2013. None of that stuff was going on back then. But he wasn't one of your 4-star, 5-star players. He was, at a very, very small little school in Columbia, South Carolina. And, the only thing he really had, he was a great athlete, good sized. He would have been today. I don't think he would get a shot at a Power 4 school. He wouldn't. He'd have to go to a small school like Elon and try to, get some playing time and then get, through a transfer portal to a Power 4 school. So that's how much, the game has changed for us. And now it's becoming such a huge business, as you all know. And
but Tom, what I would also add is that Duke absolutely recruited really good student athletes, and Gabriel, had the smarts to get into Duke. So he fit the profile, and he had a lot of upshot, and he was 6'6", and 6'6", and I remember, I think he was maybe 220 when he graduated, 230, and I remember the offensive line coach telling us, "Oh, he'll play at 290." And I couldn't conceive what that would look like on Gabriel. And even that wasn't even that big, considering today's standards. Yeah. But it was just an extraordinary experience for him, the best education, the networks, the people that he met. And it was a stepping stone to where he's at now. He's living his dream. He's always wanted to be a doctor. And here he's at one of the finest orthopedic hospitals in the country, and married. He has a brand new baby, and so
first-time grandparents.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So. I'll tell you, Greg, isn't this incredible? I mean, it's just phenomenal.
It's just amazing, to hear, these stories. And again, may not always be, and you and I have talked about this tons of times, may not always be the biggest names you've ever heard from Mountaineer history, but a lot of Mountaineer history there, and then you see the accomplishments afterwards, and you can talk about Gabriel's smarts and the daughter's intelligence, those things, but there's something to be said for good parenting as well, and I think that's a credit to Tom and his lovely wife there. I think that's credit to them for being good parents, and just fascinating stories, and so much fun to hear. It's so interesting. And I was going to ask Tom. I don't know. I guess just by circumstance, you're forced to be a sports fan, obviously, because you both were sports stars, and you have kids that all played. So maybe you get forced into it. Do you still watch college football, Mountaineers? Do you still pay attention to it much?
Oh, 1,000%. Every Saturday I'm glued to that TV. Much to my wife's chagrin, she wants me out doing other things, but yeah, I'm always making an excuse to watch the games. Absolutely.
I'm always curious. I know we've had some folks who say, I don't pay much attention to it, and I think somebody, maybe in last week down in Texas, just don't get to see it too much. But what do you think of, and both of you can chime in on this, the situation there with Rich Rodriguez coming back What do you think lies in store for the Mountaineers?
I think you got to give him a shot. You got to give him some time to build his program. I think Rich Rod he'll bring it back. He'll bring it back. Just give him some time. He's a great coach, and boy, he just has to navigate that new NIL and all that other stuff. Which, nowadays he just better get himself a really good general manager on board, because let Rich Rod coach, because that's what he does best. And when he was with Tommy and I talked about this at the reunion a few weeks ago on what an offensive mind he is, and he could put the program together. We just have to give him a chance.
Yeah, it's a totally different world coaching now. I think, and you have to be a mastermind of this portal and the way it all works and the money, and it's just quite a mess right now. We've talked about that a lot, but hopefully the Mountaineers can hang in there with it. We're kind of fighting an uphill battle from West Virginia with the financial end of things, but you have to have faith in Coach Rich and think that he is going to turn this thing around. Do you get back to Morgantown? I know you said you did make it for the reunion. Do you get back up very often, or
we still have family in Pittsburgh, and we do come through Morgantown, not necessarily during football season, but we do stop in and spend some time in Morgantown, going around the old haunts, and but love to get back to a couple games in the future. We were a little busy. We started our family a little later in life, so we were busy down in the Carolinas, more so with Duke and Elon doing that. Now we're since we're kind of retired now, we could spend some more time back up that way. And since we have a granddaughter in Pittsburgh, we'll be coming through there a little bit more.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. My son's you mentioned UPMC. My son's girlfriend, they live in Pittsburgh, and she works at the hospital there, and she's a nurse. So she graduated from WVU. So
good.
World. Yep, small world. And speaking of Tom Pridemore, we've Frank and I, Mickey, I think all of us have we've attempted to get him on the show. He's become sort of a recluse. He don't respond to us very well as far as being on the show. So if you ever have a word with him, tell him what a great job we did and how fun it was.
Absolutely. I loved Tommy at the reunion and saw him at the tailgate. So it was good to touch base with him, and again all the old players too. It was great, and even getting back to seeing some of those 69 players, Mickey, Randy Fincham, and some of those guys, so great to meet up with them. And I just, and God rest the souls of all the ones that have already passed. And, I look a picture of my position group from 1975. There were 10 offensive linemen. 3 of us are left. So it's amazing how time flies, and, but we must move on.
Mm-hmm.
And Frank, you talking about recognizing these guys. Back then, the games weren't always on TV, and I mean rarely were they on TV. In fact, and I do remember the Pitt game that year was on TV, and then the Peach Bowl was on TV. But one of the reasons why I recognize even Tom's name and all these others is that we listened on the radio, and those names were broadcast over the radio. So we heard all these names. We didn't know the faces or anything like that, but we knew what number they were, and we knew what position they played. And we knew what their names were, and that's how I remember these folks. Because back then, every game wasn't on TV. You got to see one a year, maybe if you were lucky. Yeah. And that year we were lucky we got to see 2. So usually what they do is show us in Penn State or us in Pitt, because they thought that Pitt and Penn State was going to beat us. So they always put those games on ABC. So, but anyway, that's a good way to remember these names. I tell you what, this has been a fascinating listen, and I wish, Frank, we may have to get into our bank vault and try to prolong this show to an hour and a half, maybe, so we can have more time with these folks to get to hear these great stories. It's fascinating to listen to, so enjoyable and entertaining, and just amazing to see what's been accomplished.
It's very kind.
Thank you. looking forward to the 55-year reunion.
There we go. There we go. Yeah, we may have to make a presence there, won't we?
Yeah.
Frank, we'll have to get there. Listen, guys, we'll let you get off here. We know you're busy and have things to do, and we're running a little short of time. But one more time, I want to thank you so much for joining us, both of you. It's been a fascinating story to listen to. Congratulations on all the history and what the future holds for you with your great family. So thank you so much.
Thank you much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All
Wonderful.
right, thank you.
Meet all of you. Thank you.
See you. Bye-bye.
And Frank, I tell you, again, as usual, it never failed to fascinate. Amazing.
It's I can't say any better than that. I mean, I think about it, Kathy Fear and I went to Morgantown together, but we came from the same hometown. Whereas if I remember correctly, Gene came from New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Tom came from Pittsburgh. But the experiences they had as they talked reminds me so much of the experiences that we had. And we wouldn't want to do it over again any other way. And I can sense that in their case. And you're right about families. Absolutely. That, the values that you can sense there and clearly see shared, and we all have aspirations for our kids, and all three of us are very lucky to have kids who have really, really done so well, are good people, and you can see that clearly is in their family too. So what a way to spend Thanksgiving Eve.
Absolutely.
Just heartwarming.
Yep. And too, another thing we noticed, that common thread when these folks talk about Morgantown, their time in Morgantown, they mention different places that they we're all familiar with, and it's just always that common theme, that what a great place, lifelong memories, wouldn't do anything different. And Mickey can attest to that. Mickey, of course, spent his time there. I'm sure feels the same way, and it's always a common theme. So it's again, we've talked about selling the program, and that has to be one of the big selling points up there, is what a wonderful place it is and what great people are up there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And what great products is produced,
Yeah,
I mean, we see
right.
that over and over. And by the way, Mickey, I wanted to clarify something and correct you. I hate this over the air. I shouldn't do it after we're off, but Schwarzenegger was the governor of California. Ben Schwartzwalder was the
That's
coach
right.
of Syracuse.
You're exactly right.
Hey.
Got a little
Greg.
mixed up.
Hey, but you know what? They were both great golfers.
That's right.
You got that right, Frank. Hey, Frank mentioned something here that I just wanted to comment on real quickly. Frank mentioned early in the show that we're probably the only webcast that talks not only about what's going on at our alma maters today, but taking a look into the past. And I think it's important to maintain that history, to maintain the culture. As you mentioned, Frank, the fact that we look at, hey, what's going on today and what happened with folks like Tom and his wife. But we've got to be the very first show in the history of podcasts that had an entire family on the show. So I think we would be out of order if we did not declare Tom and his wife and their children the first family of Mountaineer Locker Room then and now. What do you think, guys?
Absolutely.
I'm in.
Absolutely. First family of the Mountaineer Locker Room then and now.
There you go.
And man, what a family. Great. Yeah,
no, it is wonderful. Well, we got a game coming up, guys, and I enjoyed the game last week when we played by. But
wasn't it kind of nice? Wasn't it kind of nice just to kick back and just flip the channels around and not get all nervous and uptight, and kind of enjoyable.
Yeah, until I, and you guys know this, we did our homework for tonight, and you look at Texas Tech and you go, oh my God, we got to play these guys on Saturday.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Well, I would have felt a lot better tonight if they had won last Saturday against Arizona State. I would have felt a whole lot better about what's coming up. But I think we're going to get in there and fight, and I think we're going to give them a run for it. So I'm not throwing the towel in just yet.
Yeah. Mick, what do you think? What's your sizing up of this thing?
Well, that's why you play the game. That's why you go out there on Saturday afternoon. You never know. I mean, just think back to when West Virginia was headed to a national championship game, favored over Pitt by something like 18 points, and we ended up losing that game. It can happen on any given Saturday, but I got to say the odds are stacked against us this year. Did do a little bit of research, and there's no question that Texas Tech's got just a dominant defense. And Greg, one of the things that you've mentioned before on the show is the fact that you didn't think we'd ever see a day when there were all seniors starting for a team on either offense or defense. Well, Texas Tech has 11 seniors that are starting, on their team. And what a turnaround that they've made from last year. They got a new offensive coordinator this year. They got a new defensive coordinator this year. And in spite of that, they won 10 games by more than 20 points per game. I mean, they've got the sixth nationally ranked offense in the country. They're averaging 52 points a game on offense. Their defense is ranked 14th in the country. They're only giving up 11.3 points per game. And the only team that they lost to was Arizona State. And one of the reasons that they lost to them, their star quarterback, Bahrain Morton, missed that game against Arizona State. And that's the only one that they lost by a score of 26-22. And Arizona State got quite a few breaks in that game. So, we've got that to take on this Saturday. Their defensive line is just dominant. They beat BYU, who we had some difficulty with, by 22 points. They beat Utah by 24. And on top of all that, Dior Hubbard is out of the lineup for this last game. So we've basically got Sincere Byers, and we've got a converted linebacker playing the other tailback position. So we got our work cut out for us this weekend. But, two things that we do have going for us. Number one, it's, and Tom alluded to this, when you're a senior and it's your last game, you do have a tendency to play above your head sometimes. It's the last time you're ever going to put on the old gold and blue, and you go out there and you give it absolutely everything that you got. So I'm hoping to see that kind of an effort from the Mountaineers. And of course, we have the home field advantage also, which can make a difference in any game that you compete in. So we got a couple of things in our favor. No doubt the Ducks stacked against us. But I listened to Rich Rod's presser the other day, and he said, if you're not up to this challenge, then you're not the kind of player I thought you were. So I look for the Mountaineers to come out and give it their best effort, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think I think we can feel confident in what we've seen from the Mountaineers, and that and the fact that they're going to come out and play hard. And I think that's one thing that we worried about early on in the season was, are these guys going to continue to put out the effort that's needed to win? And I think that's been one thing that been fairly satisfying with this group is that they play hard every week, and if you play hard, you got a chance. And like you said, we're playing at home. It gives us a puncher's chance. And whereas you look at where they're ranked offensively and defensively, and you look at some of the common opponents and how they've handled some of those where we didn't, and in some cases really beat some of these teams bad that beat us bad. But anything can happen, and I think the Mountaineers are a different team than what they were, 2 months ago. I think they've improved dramatically. I think they've got some confidence coming into the game. So I think we'll get in there and battle. I think we have a puncher's chance, and I think we'll get in there and battle. I think these guys have showed some resiliency all year long, and they've been down a couple times but come back, and I don't see this weekend being any different. Like you said, last game for a lot of them there, so I think it's going to be an entertaining game. I think it'll be fun to watch. Frank, how about you?
Yeah, just keying off what Mickey said, watching Rich Rod. One of the questions, I think it was John Antonic who asked it. It was. He asked, "Is this the end of this season or the beginning of the next?" And he quickly said, "No, we can't think about the future. This is the end of this season." At the same time, though, when you look at the stats, we haven't faced a team where the gap between where they are and the opposition is so great. I mean, on average, they're beating teams by 31 points, I think, 31 or 32 points on average. And when you look at their defense, which Rich Rod talked about a lot, you got, just here some numbers here. 33 sacks, 12 interceptions, 3 fumble recoveries. And you look at kicking, Stone Harrington's their kicker, 85% accuracy on field goals. He's 75% beyond 50. He's hit a 58-yard field goal. And you look at their skill positions, they're basically too deep. Yeah, Baron Morton is really good, but Willie Hammond, his backup, is also good. Cram Dickey is going to, probably break 1,000 yards against West Virginia. He's at 950 right now, but Jacoby Williams is at 700. And then they've got 5 receivers, wideouts, 4 wideouts, flankers, and then 1 tight end. And you look at them, and they got 5 touchdowns, 6 touchdowns, 4 touchdowns, and so as a consequence, you're saying they're like stormtroopers. They just keep on coming at you. And let's not kid ourselves. We talked about this last year. Nobody has bankrolled the athletic program in the Big 12 like Texas Tech. Nobody is even close. Yeah. Their goal is to replace the Texas and Oklahomas as the kings of the Big 12, and they're investing. Their donors are putting a lot of money behind it, and it's showing. There's absolutely no question. So, but I agree with Craig. I think that the Mountaineers have played well, starting in the Texas Christian game. That's continued. We talked about this. Break here, break there. Should have beaten Arizona State and Tempe. The bottom line is they're playing a lot better. Hubbard's out of the game, so we're losing another running back. We're going to have that Mountaineer spirit. Hopefully, it'll be a good crowd. But this is the tallest order of the season. This team, they want to get into the Big 12 championship game, slot in the college football playoff. So they have to win this game. I'm talking about Texas Tech. Yeah. So they're, looking for them to come into the game and la-di-da. That's not going to happen. But you go with the heart, and our heart's with West Virginia.
Yep. So we need to, go ahead and get our scores in. I don't know what order we want to go in. I guess we want to give Mickey the first shot since he needs the win to tie us up. We'll give him the first shot at it. That'd probably be the fair way to do it, don't you think?
Sure. And it hurts my heart to make this prediction, guys, but seeing how you guys are one game ahead of me in the standings, I got to be as realistic as possible here to tie you 2 guys for the season. So I'm gonna call it Texas Tech 38, West Virginia 17.
Wow.
All right, that's close to what I was going with.
I hope it doesn't turn out that way.
Yeah, I do too. But I think it's Thanksgiving week. I think the crowd will be sparse. It's supposed to be cold, which might play into our favor a little bit. But I think Texas Tech is they have a lot to play for. We have pride to play for, and I think we'll scrap and fight, and I think we'll play physical, and I think we'll play hard. I just don't think we have the talent to do it, and I think I'm going to have to alter my score a little bit because Mickey's pretty close to being right on what I was going to say. I was going to say 34, and I'll go 14, 34-14. Texas Tech, which I don't want.
Well, this is what I did to get to where I was. The line, don't bet. I don't bet. Haven't bet for years. The last time I bet actually was in Morgantown, and I went into a sandwich shop and said I'd like to have a roast beef sub, and he looked at me, and then he reached behind the counter and gave me a parlay card. So evidently, I pushed the button of it's gambling time. Anyway, code word. Anyway, so I looked at the line, 23.5, I think they're favored. And that's exactly the same line that they were favored over UCF last week. And they beat, or the week before, and they beat UCF 48-9. I think we can do better. We're playing at home. So I picked 42-17. And again, I don't want to take that, but Tech 42, West Virginia 17. And I hope I'm wrong. Yep.
Well, I hope we're all wrong, and hopefully we can get the win. It'd be a heck of a way to cap off the season if we could pull out an upset, And hey, why not play the spoiler if you get a chance? Let's do it. So hopefully we can hang in there and have a shot at the end and pull it out. That'd be awesome. I hope we all three miss. Basketball teams hit a little bit of a rough stretch here. Last couple of games, I thought Clemson. I thought we kind of gave that game away, and along with the help of the officials, but I'll not get into that. And then we played Xavier, and Frank, I'll tell you what, Mickey, I don't know if you watched, but my gosh, Xavier rarely missed. They set some records for 3-point baskets and that sort of thing, and we just kind of walked into a buzzsaw there. But what's your thoughts on the basketball team? I think we've got a lot to look forward to, that basketball team.
I think the expectations were a bit high at the beginning.
Yeah.
These are players that hadn't played before together. And we've got a lot of talent. Eagle staff, for example, started to come out in the Xavier game. I mentioned to Greg, we had a chat about this. I saw Xavier earlier in the season and was not at all impressed. But I've noticed recently they've started to come in their own a bit. But 65% from three, with one guy going off in the first half and another guy going off in the second half, that was tough. And today was a real downer. We had Ohio State by 7 points in the fourth quarter, just could not hold on, and they beat us at the buzzer. The game was on Flow TV. I didn't see it. Did either of you guys see the Ohio State? No. I'm talking about women's basketball now.
Women's.
Yeah. I noticed when watching on ESPN game, whatever it is, where you don't see it, but they put up, there was a tremendous amount of time with 1 second left on the clock, and they didn't post the final score. And evidently Shaw was fouled in the corner, but I'd love to be able to see a replay of that to see what happened. But West Virginia lost 83, I think it was 83-81. But you know what? To answer your question, I look at it this way, and I wrote it down. Let's see if I can find it. As we look forward, the women have Villanova coming up on Monday. Then they've got Georgia Tech on December 11th at home. Villanova's at home. A&M away on the 14th, and then Houston at home on the 21st. We're going to know all we need to know about the women's team after they go through those games. And the men get Ohio State again on the 13th in Cleveland, and that's going to be on ESPNU. So they've got a number of, I think, less intense games before that. So I think by the time we hit January 1, we'll know a lot better. I think we're going to see a lot more from the men's team, and I think the women's team is going to bounce back from that loss today to the Buckeyes.
Yeah. One thing, and I haven't watched the women's team a lot, but I think he does a fantastic job, and I think they'll be right in the mix. As far as the men's team is concerned, which I have watched a lot, they play really good defense, and they really get after people defensively. Now I know people look say, "Yeah, that team shot 65% from a 3-point line." Well, you can let them stay out there by themselves, and they wouldn't do that very often. So that's just one of those games, but they really do play good defense, and I think anytime you do that, you give yourself a chance to win. So, yeah, they're going to get better and better as the year goes on. I think the more they play together. Again, this is one of those rosters thrown together, through the portal, and he's got some players, no question about that. There's some players on that team, and I think once they all figure out their roles, I've noticed a lot of situations where you got people taking shots that you really wouldn't expect to be taking those shots, and those are the type of things that you have to work out. Get the players understanding what their role is, the shot selection, who should be having certain shots and that sort of thing. That'll get all ironed out as the season rolls on, and I think they're going to be pretty good before it's over with. Again, I hadn't got to see the women play much other than that fiasco in Greenbrier County, but I think Kellogg does a great job, and I think that they're going to be fine. The women's team is going to be good. When you see what when they come out and play with the substitutes and beat Duke, tells you something about their depth. So they had four backups playing and 5 players played the whole second half. That's pretty impressive right there. So they got some depth going on there.
Yeah.
So anyway, we'll keep an eye on that, and we'll be getting into basketball here before too long. But we also have a pregame show we want to announce too. Saturday, I think the game time is noon, and Frank, so that means we'll be on at 10:30 with our pregame. We'll be on for about an hour prior to. I think Mike Fox. I can't read the graphic here because I'm. Mike Fox is going to join us again. Mike's always a load of fun, and he's entertaining to listen to, and be interested in seeing what his take is on the pregame and the postgame. That'll be a lot of fun. Then we'll do the postgame about 15, 20 minutes after the game concludes, approximately 4 o'clock. We'll see where that goes, but be about 15, 20 minutes after the game concludes. So look forward to bringing you that. So, but also, Frank, real quick, you want to mention the soccer teams and what's going on there before we sign off for the night?
Yeah, just a shout out. Yeah, just a shout out to both the men's and the women's team. Their seasons are over, but boy, I'll tell you, they did a great job. Both made it to the second round of the NCAA championship. West Virginia got there by beating St. John's at home last week in overtime. That was extra time, rather, and that was just phenomenal. And then they had a tough time at High Point, a team that they tied earlier in the year. They drew earlier in the year. High Point's very talented. Good school down in North Carolina. And the women went to Georgetown. West Virginia men lost to High Point 3-2. And the women lost to Georgetown in penalty kicks. It was 1-1. And they lost 4-3. So it was so close for both of them to get to the Sweet. And if they had won those games, they would have gone to the Sweet 16. But really, really good teams. And the other thing I want to mention before we close is I saw something today I had not seen before. And I see that Tom is still in the back room. He may not know this. I didn't. We mentioned earlier that the early signing day for football players is the 4th and 5th of December. And there's going to be a big to-do in Morgantown, I think on the 5th, but I'm not sure. Anyway, it's coming up. But we would look at On3 and Rivals as our sources. Those two have combined, so it's now one, and they are the best. And I looked at that today, and this is amazing. West Virginia has signed 30. They hope to sign 30. They have 30 commits. They got to sign this week. Of those 30, now get this, 8 are considered by On3 and rivals as elites. And what elites means is these are players who they believe have the ability to come in as freshmen or as transfers. It's not portal, but the junior college players are included and contribute immediately and have the capability to be able to make it to pro ball. And I was thinking about you, Mickey, when I saw this. Of the 8 that are elites, you've got 4 offensive linemen. He's not kidding. One from Pennsylvania, one from Maryland, one from New Jersey, and one from Tennessee. And the Pennsylvania is Kevin Brown. His dad played at West Virginia. And the other players are linebackers or edge players. So you know what Rich Rod's trying to do and what he's trying to build up. And that is that defensive line and the linebackers and the offensive line. I can't remember a time when 8 players were out of 30, or 8 players at all were named elite. And because of that, West Virginia has rocketed up from number 9 as On3 and Rivals has had it just last week, ranked number 9 in recruits to number 4 in recruits in the Big 12, and from 48th in the country to 33rd or 32nd. And so good things are going to happen. I mean, that's a real good predictor of the future.
Yeah, that's encouraging. You know, I was talking earlier about listening to these talk shows and heard a guy on yesterday talking about Florida. And, they were talking about Lane Kiffin, of course, and attractive jobs. And Florida, they were considering it not to be a real attractive job right now. And they were asking him why. And he said the main reason is they kind of did away with recruiting high school players. He said they went the JUCO and portal route and kind of did away with the high school players and building. And he said now, it's an empty nest. And he said they just don't have players there. And I thought about that. I thought, that's right. You've got to have. You can't get them all out of the portal. And of course, he pretty much did this year. But you see what you have, and there's something to be said for building programs. I know Tom and his wife talked about Gabriel. Going to play at 290, goes in at 220. That's developing, but turning young guys into men, and getting them bigger and stronger and faster and that sort of thing. And that's where it has to start. And so that's encouraging that we're doing that good of a job in this recruiting period. So and I've said this over and over. You just give Rich time, and he's going to get it worked out. Guaranteed.
Yeah. Mick, as Greg's talking there, I'm glad he brought that up, because Mick, you look at what Prime did when he went to Colorado. He just basically didn't recruit high schools, and look what happened to that team. And so Rich Rod had no chance to do anything else but do the portal this year. But to bring in this strength of class, and it may well be, I hadn't thought about it, Greg, it may well be that a lot of schools are just focusing on the portal or more on the portal. But Mick, I think it's very hopeful.
Well, and to your point there, Frank, just some breaking news yesterday. Nitro High School is right in the midst of the state high school playoffs here, and I follow them pretty closely. They had a kid from Nitro, outstanding offensive lineman, that had committed to Florida State. And just yesterday, he decommitted from Florida State, and Rich Rod and staff are recruiting him heavily. So not only can we get a good high school player, but me, I want to get as many in-state high school players as we possibly can. So if this kid comes our way, that'll be a great second addition of an offensive lineman, in addition to Kevin.
Yeah, boy, great news! Great news. Mm-hmm.
Want to thank our special guest tonight, Tom Brandner. We appreciate him for joining us. It was a lot of fun. Great story to listen to. If you didn't get a chance, you need to go back and listen to it for sure. We appreciate everybody for tuning in. Darren, thanks for all your hard work. Mickey, always great seeing you. Appreciate your input. And Frank, always good seeing you as well. Next week, we got another special guest, Danny Bugs. I think most people might have heard of that name before. That's one that we have heard, and be interesting to talk to Danny Bugs. So I'm sure Tom remembers him as well. And I'm sure a lot of Mountaineer fans remember Danny Bugs. But look forward to that on Wednesday night. So we hope you'll join us for that as well. Here on the Mountaineer Locker Room Then and Now, brought to you by the New River Network and the Voice of College Football. For Frank and for Mickey and for Darren, we appreciate you tuning in. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone, and we will see you Saturday on the Mountaineer pregame show. Good night, everybody.
Thanks, Tom and Gene.
Yep. Thank you.